for January 5th, 2015. Let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's be seated. And let us pray. Dear God of the ages, we thank you for the gift of time. We thank you for the gift of life. And we thank you that you have gifted us life in this time and this place. Give us humility as we attempt to live in the larger picture, and strengthen us with the human bond called love, which forever defines all life in every age. Amen. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed by our city clerk?
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Unanimously approved. Is there a motion to approve the December 10th, 2014 work session minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Unanimously approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the December 15th, 2014 meeting?
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Council discussion. All in favor signify with yes.
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 Opposed with no. Unanimously approved. We have a wonderful guest council person for January with us, Mr. Derek Solheim. Derek, we know, is a community leader and person with Wartburg College, but we need to hear a little bit more about Derek. Would you be willing to share with the public and with all of us here gathered a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, Dan, thank you for the invite to be a part of the council tonight. My wife Heidi, who many of you probably know, works at the Waverly Health Center. We moved here 13 years ago. We have two sons, one in 10th grade, one in 7th grade. My wife and I actually met when we were students at Wartburg College, and I won't say the year, but it was a while ago. So I'm thrilled about living in a community like this where we have folks like all of you up here and in the audience who are actively engaged in the work of our community. So thank you very much for letting me be part of this tonight.
Right, and you have full voice. This is the date, time, and place for a public hearing concerning Waverly Light and Power's desire to sell a no longer used vacant lot located in northwest Waverly at 7th Avenue and Cedar River Drive. The sale will be to Steer Properties. Public comments, since we're fiddling with Mike, any written, Valerie, any written comments on this one?
Received.
Then I would invite the public to make any comments they would like to make. Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. A motion to be in order.
I'd move Resolution 1501, authorizing the sale of vacant lot located on 7th Avenue Northwest at the corner of Cedar River Drive to Steer Properties LLC for $7,510. Be approved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion. We're wanting to get home early. Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Niendorf,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Reznacek,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Motion is, Resolution 15-01 is unanimously approved. This is the date, time, and place for a public hearing on the plan, specs, contract, and estimated cost for the 2nd Avenue Southwest reconstruction and the Babcock Woods Trail extension. Any public comments? Were there any written comments?
No comment.
Hearing none, I close the hearing. Motion would be in order.
I move resolution 1502, approving the plans, specifications, former contract, and estimated cost of $890,404 for the Second Avenue Southwest reconstruction of Babcock Wood Trails Extension Project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion?
Just a quick question. I know with some of the other street projects here lately, there's been a couple questions on how we address other infrastructure, water, sewer, those type of things. And I'm assuming we've taken that into account with this project and
Yep, Mike can answer that better than I can, but typically we review all the conditions before we embark on a major project.
Yes.
With that, yes. We will do a roll call vote. Valerie?
Resincheck,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
McKenzie,
yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Resolution 15-02, unanimously approved. This is the date, time, and place for our third and final public hearing, which concerns our rental code ordinance, which aims to ensure that rental structures are safe, sanitary, and fit for occupation. Were there any written comments?
none were received.
Any public oral comments?
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
It is.
X'd out the third. Any other public comments? Then we close the hearing. A motion be in order.
I'll move the second reading of ordinance 991, adding to the current rental code ordinance of Waverly, Iowa, to ensure that the structures are safe, sanitary, and fit for occupation and use.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Council discussion?
Just a couple changes here that you want to touch what you had done.
The two changes we made are the first one is with regards to the parking. The intent was to have apartment complexes that were built with the requisite number of parking places at the time they were constructed to be somewhat grandfathered in. And so we changed that language to make it clear that that's what we intended, that they would be non-conforming but legal under the code. And that really that only housing units that were not intended as rental properties to actually have that process with the variance. And then on the mediation list, we are going to put a box on the application form to allow landlords to put their name on the list to participate in mediation. So we have a bigger list to pick from. Those are the only two changes.
Other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Resincheck,
Yes.
Ordinance 991 on second reading is unanimously approved. We continue with public comments on items not on tonight's agenda. We also have two requests to the City Council. Joanne Greenlee, representing the Bremer County Community Partners, is here to inform us a little bit on that effort and her request of a small amount from the City Council.
So where would you like me?
Right at the mic.
Right there? Okay. All right, so I am a member of the Bremer County Community Partners, and we have kind of gone around to different towns and tried to explain what we do. There is a list on the back of the presentation that says all the people that we have worked with, and what we try to do is work together as a group to provide as many services as what we can. And knowing that some of these services were available in the Waverly Shell Rock School District, when I became a member of the Sumner-Fredericksburg School District, I went to the board meetings so that I could get some of those services in Sumner as well. So overall, what we do is we serve infants all the way to elderly. we get together as a group and decide what needs to be done. Some of the things that we do that serve the community on a large scale is our Family Fun Fair, which is going to be April 11th this year. And what we do there is give out car seats for infants, helmets, give helmets to children that don't have helmets to ride bicycles. Every booth that is there gives something to a child. There is not any commercial things that are sold or anything. And I also, when I've gone around to talk to the councils in Bremer County, has said, I would encourage you to have a booth at the Family Fun Fair. Very nice way to have exposure to 750 to 800 people. So a couple of the other things we do, we have, like for instance, if a child gets put in foster care and that parent does not have anything, we provide those things for them. They do Halloween bags. I like the school hygiene project. Every school just says, I need X amount. It can be 100, it can be 130, it can be whatever number. And it's all the things that a child needs to stay healthy and clean. We do toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, et cetera, things like that. And a lot of schools recently have asked for mittens and underwear, underclothing, because those are things that they don't have on hand and perhaps need that. And anyway, there are a lot of people in Bremer County that don't know what we do. We do not have offices. We meet at St. Paul's once a month. The people that are listed, whether it's Department of Human Services, let me see, the Women's Shelter, Junior Court Services, not all of those people show up every single time, but a group of us always, pretty consistently get together. And if there is a need in a school in this county, in this town, we try to take care of it if we can. So it is, like I said, we provide services all the way from infants to elderly. And what I am requesting is I'm going to every council in Bremer County and I am asking for a contribution of $100 a year. Or whatever you think is appropriate, because we do not do any fundraisers. Everything we do is either a grant or a gift. And some of the grants are reimbursement grants where when you're done using those things and delivering that service, then you need to pay that back. So in order to continue, we would just like to have the participation of every city in Bremer County.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you have any questions of me?
Let me ask the council, any questions you have of Joan Greenlee?
What kind of budget do you need? What's your goal for going to every city in Bremer County?
Well, what we're asking is each city to contribute $100. So like, for instance, the foster care essentials, last year we spent $250 on that. We do Halloween treat bags with the Waverly Public Library. And actually, every public library in Bremer County. And so it includes things like pencils and drug information, et cetera, $430 for that. The school hygiene projects run about $1,000. And we do the Family Fun Fair. There are some expenses to that as well. We do get a lot of contributions for that. And we try really hard to service everybody in Bremer County.
Well, we hope everyone was listening, who's maybe not here today.
Okay.
But it was a very nice presentation. We thank you. We're collecting all the requests of the
Right. And we're
public
just
to our
asking for
budget, and
consideration, so
We'll have,
I do appreciate that very much.
give due consideration when we do budget.
Okay, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joan.
Okay.
We also have a request from Heritage Days, Dwayne Little and Jess Hamilton.
Pretty much everybody knows me, but I'm Dwayne Little, and I'm the the chair of Waverly Heritage Days here in Waverly. And I have with me,
I'm Jess Hamilton. I'm a co-chair of Waverly Heritage Days, new to the committee, grown up in Waverly my whole life, so
Good
exciting.
to have you.
So we're in the process of restructuring the Heritage Days Committee so that we can branch out and expand. We're building on the shoulders of the people that have been on the committee from 1988 until now. They have created a festival for Waverly that brings people from all around the area and other states to Waverly during July as a destination. And that's one of the goals of the city of Waverly is how to make Waverly a destination. Well, we're already doing it, and we're doing it on a large scale. As close as we can count, we got about 6,700 people coming to Waverly on that weekend, plus a few hundred more that we can't count because they're spread all over the place and there's no way to track them somehow. But we're asking for a contribution from the city of $5,000 to expand our program into more family-type events, and maybe expand more into Sunday, utilizing the park and the new amphitheater as a backdrop for family-type orientated events. We have the old guy, businessman type point of view, and we have Jess's young family starting out point of view, and we've got a whole committee of about 13, 14 people that are now broken down into subcommittees. And that was Jess's idea, so that we could expand how we conduct Heritage Days on that weekend, how we could better serve our customers. Our customers are all the people that we're trying to draw to Waverly. And we provide a free concert. We provide a couple free concerts. We're trying to expand into Saturday evening concert into a different type of music so that we can attract other. We see that as a market that's not being tapped right now. So that's what our contribution from the city is going to. We raise money from all the local businesses who donate a lot of cash to our event because they see the value of it. And we're going to attempt to do a better job of recognizing those people because they are the community. They are the community. We're just acting to draw people here to benefit everybody in the community. We spend a lot of time and hours on it, and nobody's paid. It's just a labor of love for doing it. It's a love of Waverly. It's that special feeling that Waverly has when people come here that you can't put a finger on exactly how to describe it. And so once we get the people to Waverly, they get that feeling. Hopefully they think about Waverly to build a business, raise a family, come here and live. So,
A few of the other things that we're looking at doing are getting the city's input and getting people in the community's input. And we're actually redoing our website currently, so that hopefully, like, people that want to contribute to an idea of a different band or a kids event or something that they think would be fun for the next year, we could add that in there instead of it, because we don't want it to feel like it's the committee and it's our decision. We want the community to be part of what we're doing and to have a say in what bands we have and to have a say in what kids events we have and to really feel like it's a community event and not just something that we're pulling together and, you know, saying, here you go, this is what you get, take it for what it's worth. So we're really trying to build in that community emphasis so that everybody feels like they're a part of it instead of it just being us saying, here you go. So, I mean, that's just another part that we're trying to contribute to the community, and it will take time. There's a lot of new committee members this year, so I think there's probably 8 new committee members, and a lot of us are, no offense, my age or about my age. So, you know, we bring in a different aspect, and we bring in different ideas, and we might bring in different, you know, different things to contribute. So that's something else that is not changing for the better. I mean, not necessarily, we don't want to say what has been done in the past has been bad, because it's been great, and they've built it up to where we need it to be, but we're just trying to build on that and make what we can better for the community. So we have high aspirations, and hopefully we'll succeed. But
I think we already support this with a lot of, I think it was about 2,000 in the present budget. And we'd be with this request, we'd be expanding up to 5.
yeah.
yes.
But you guys have, not necessarily right now, but when we go through our budget, maybe some line items of what that extra money will be used for,
Yep.
I guess. Just, I don't want anything right now, but when we get to that point, just,
I think Dwayne's kind of outlined it in his
Yeah.
narrative.
or, yeah, maybe have more examples, yeah. Have you guys considered, have you guys thought about doing maybe a concert downtown? Something you're,
That's part of what we're looking at, expansion on Sundays into the Coleman Park. We got to be very careful.
oh, yeah.
You know, past committee members have been careful to make sure the event has grown steadily. And we have all the risks that we have to worry about when we're making decisions on what to do with our event. So we're approaching that, but we're approaching it very cautiously, like we would any other decision.
Thank you.
I guess I would echo Chris's kind of, if we had a little more information on maybe some of the background of the financials and stuff that went to Heritage Days. I guess I was looking at, like, Vic Ferrari, I think that's a free concert, right?
Yes.
Was there actually,
Everything's free.
that's amazing, it's 4,500 people came to the Vic Ferrari concert?
If you figure out the space of where they could stand, where people could stand, as well as the number of beverage tickets that were sold, that's how we're arriving at that number. We had our best year last summer on that Friday night concert. That's the highest attendance we've had so far. And it demonstrates that the committee is being very wise on how it uses its money in the past and to create growth, but steady growth and very careful growth. Yes, if we can expand, the concert on Saturday night did not draw as many people because that band is less expensive and has a smaller following. So there's a ratio between what you pay for the band and what the following that band brings to the town. And then that affects our beverage sales, which then affects how much capital we have to operate on. We're like a business. We have customers and we have income, and we've got to make the income stretch to satisfy the customers. And that's what we're doing.
I think you
As far as-
commented, though, too, Dwayne, how important is this? In what you wrote up for us, you said that your income has been decreased by 2/3 just because of the loss in can redemption, if I read
That's
that
why
right.
we're looking at other avenues of revenue, and one of those is a bingo night, maybe all year long, on a monthly basis, which means we'll be paying rent at some hall or some facility someplace as part of our efforts to doing fundraising. That's an example of, take for instance, I think we pay $200 to the Boy Scouts to pick up the wires after the fireworks. There's a community organization that benefits directly from Heritage Days.
I think as you state, the cans are, I think, I can see how that was, when I was younger, there was only Heritage Day cans, pay for the fireworks, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And now every place has a can redemption for some cause, and I can see how
Churches
that.
and Pheasants Forever and
Yeah, they're
just about
for
everybody, because
everything.
they
So I can
realize
see
it's
how
a
that's
great
really
idea.
took a dent and stuff, but the fireworks are a huge thing too. There's 2 big concerts that are free fireworks, and they're always, the best fireworks around, so.
Every time a firework goes up in the air and you see the sky lit up, that's about $40 or $50 minimum.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of money.
It's salty. But it's something that the public wants,
Oh, yeah.
and that's how we have to try to figure this into everything.
Yeah, I applaud you guys looking to expand. I think more family events are important, and it sounds like you guys are all over that. So that's
Well, that was the goal.
excited.
Like,
Well,
the younger generation with the,
being young and I have 4 young children, it was important to me to see more family events brought into the community because, the events happen from noon to 4. Well, my kids take naps at 2. That cuts out, how much time out of those kids' events. So to me, it's important to see more time put into the kids' events and more activities for families to be able to do because we want it to be a whole family event, not, hey, ditch your kids on the babysitter and go out and have fun for a night and then skip out on the rest of the day after the parade. It's, you know, we want you to come to the band and enjoy a good night and then get up, go to the parade and enjoy a whole day of family events and not, I mean, we have the Coca-Cola Classic going on at the same time. So there's already families around. We just have to have more activities to entice those families to come over and join us. And like I said, everything's free, so nobody has to pay for anything. It's just getting people there. That's what's really important.
It's free
So-
to the public, but it's not free to the
Right.
committee.
Yeah, I mean, Heritage Day's been great, you know, since I've been here, and I guess the only thing I'd say it lacked was a lot of more family things, so it's encouraging to hear that you guys are and looking for things to add, so.
And that's exactly why our request for extra funding is.
Again, I think the idea of moving into Coleman Park and maybe even into the downtown area is a good one. That's probably the question I get the most about Heritage is, have they considered what could they do to make more activities in the park systems closer to downtown instead of what tends to be a little congested with the baseball tournament going on and things like that. So I think folks will be encouraged that hear that you're thinking about coming into Coleman with some activities. And
It's not to say that we're going to be abandoning Memorial Park and the fairgrounds, but when your crowd gets big enough, that's when you have the ability to start expanding in various other avenues and possibly partnering with other people to do events. But this is, again, is a representation of our slow, steady, considerate growth. We've been very careful about how we handle our money. We're just in the evolution stage really now. We've been in the startup stage, so to speak, where you can't afford to lose any money at all. And now we're kind of getting to the stage where we can start taking a little more risk, but we still have to be very careful.
Just, is the request for the additional dollars something that you anticipate beyond the 15-16 year? Would that be a continuation?
It all depends on the event. You know, if we can pull off another record crowd this summer in July, that request may be lower. But we won't know until we've had the event.
I also think it has to do with, we're looking at, because we've brought in a lot more new people, we're looking at different ways to fundraise. So instead of just relying on the cans and on donations from people, we're looking at, you know, maybe having local bands play some night at the 4-H building, and then we can have a $5 cover charge to get in. So, I mean, we're expanding maybe a chili supper, some different avenues to collect funds. But again, majority of us are brand new to the committee, so it takes a little bit of time. So I can't say for sure, but I would foresee it in the future going down. But it's just we're so new and we have no idea. I mean, we have ideas of what we're doing, and the people that have been there for years and years are helping us figure it out, but it's just taking time. And we have to try to get those activities in place and figure out who's gonna do them and where they're gonna be done and where are we gonna get the money. And so I think it's kind of a startup to help us get some of those fundraisers underway too. Because a lot of that has an overhead charge that we have to pay up front, and we don't always necessarily have the money for that stuff.
We have,
Just, yeah, and you're not asking big dollars for the return that it would bring. I mean, small amount of money for
I think the
pretty decent
return on
impact.
investment is pretty good when you get right down to it.
Yep.
I don't know exactly how many times a dollar circulates in Waverly when it comes to Waverly. One time I heard it was 6 or 7 times. So take $5 or $10 that that absolutely everybody would probably spend in town if they're in town, and then circulate through town the number of times that it normally does, and you'll start seeing the impact. And it's measurable. It's not a phantom thing.
Yeah, definitely. The more the town you can cover, the better. I mean, it's.
So we appreciate your consideration of
Yeah.
our request.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your big efforts, and it's good to see the combination of steady as we go and new energies to bring new horizons in play in Heritage Days. Thank
And
you
if you
very
got any
much.
questions that you think of when you're going home or some other date, it's myname@yahoo.com. And I can get it to Jess, and I can get
You
it
can
to all the
also
rest
go
of
to the Heritage Days website,
Yep.
and on there you can just click on email and it'll send them straight to me.
Super.
Are you guys there's the Heritage Days Facebook page, you guys maintaining that now, or someone, or that used to be a,
Dave Timmerman still does that for us. He's still the entertainment guy, so a lot of the entertainment stuff is on there.
okay,
We've also created a Twitter account at Waverly H Days, and I maintain that.
Okay.
And then slowly,
I'll follow it right now.
great. So
Thanks.
slowly I will kind of combine with Dave to go work on the Facebook page together. So,
Thank you. Okay.
Thank
Thank you
Ways
very
to get a
much.
hold of us. Thank you.
Are there any other comments by the public on any items that are not a part of tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we move on. We have 7 items in tonight's consent calendar. They are a pay request from Stanley Consultants on the Parkway. ACOM needs needs a payment on the GMT spur line. We have a request from VJ Engineering for 2nd Avenue Northwest sewer and street improvements. We have a public hearing to set for the sidewalk extension plans for, with the public hearing being held on February 2nd, 2015, here in the council chambers. We have a public hearing to set for the Pedway 2015 plans and specs and contract. This will be again at February 2nd, 2015 meeting here at the council chambers. We have a liquor license request from East Bremer Diner, and we have a liquor license request from the Big Bend Poorhouse. Those are our 7 consent calendar items. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
I will second.
Motion seconded. All in favor signify with yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Opposed with no. Unanimously approved. We have a tabled item. Yes, David?
Sometime in the future, I guess, we see the, sorry, I probably should have interjected before, the railroad spur line for GMT. Could we have maybe a little bit of information on that? It comes up at every meeting, and I guess maybe I missed what that is or why that's continuing. I was trying to look through the documents.
Yeah, we can send out some information on that. Basically, it's part of an economic development agreement with GMT, and part of the city's incentive package was to construct a rail spur off of the Canadian National. And one of the reasons why it's still being talked about is it took so long to get permission from the Canadian National to install the switch that we're just now closing it out. About 2.5 years later, 2 years.
Well, it's a lengthy process because of the funding request. There was Railroad Rise funding from the state of Iowa involved in the project. What you're seeing is one of the final pay-apps or sub-final pay-apps coming through from the engineering firm for administering the project for us. There may be one more in developing the as-built, but we typically have 1 or 2 more pay-apps from the engineer architect once the project is finalized.
It is from 2012 until now, it looks like about every month there's a small payment.
Yep.
I'm just curious, it's just they're billing that slow or something, or?
Well, they typically bill monthly, and there were periods of like during winter shutdowns when we weren't being billed for 6 months or so. The project came to council for final acceptance last time, and so there was some activity. There may be one more pay app from the architect because there's some as-built documents that they need to be providing us.
Okay.
Is there a motion to remove from the table pay request from AHTS for the amphitheater work?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. It's removed from the table. Is there a motion to approve AHTS's pay request for $815.95?
I would move that we follow through on the pay request for the $787.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Council discussion.
Just one clarification, The actual payment is $815.95. The $787 was just the addendum to the contract. So maybe
Too many numbers, I got confused.
Let the minutes so
Yep.
indicate, $815.95.
So
Again, I
la-
think,
Yeah, just
Go
like
ahead.
I mean, I don't even remember why we tabled this. Just, I know there's a discrepancy in some of the dollar amounts or to go over, and we wanted some more information on it, or.
Tab just wasn't there that night, we just.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not really a discrepancy in the dollar amounts, except that there's 50 cents left in the account. What this was the original approved location was in the middle of the park. I'm sorry, the original concept was in the middle of the park, and the final approved location was the north end. So it did take a little bit more effort to move the design to the north end, and this is what this extra charge is. That's what the addendum was.
if I recall right, there was a question on a not to exceed contract, why we were exceeding that. I think because of the changes we made in the middle of the project, it seemed reasonable to honor their request for additional funds.
And not to exceed can be exceeded if there's an addendum.
Okay.
And I think we clarified last time again that all the extra $750 is still coming out of the fund that was fundraised, and no
Right.
extra money from the city, all that kind of stuff.
We're still good.
Yep.
Okay. Ready to vote? Roll call vote, please.
Nindor,
Yes.
Kane,
Sorry. Me? Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes?
Rosencheck,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes,
Kangas,
Yes.
We have unanimously approved the request from AHTS.
Senator.
Regular business item number 1 is review of our fiscal year 2014 audit, and this will be led by Jack and Jeff Peters.
Yep.
Jeff is here. Yeah, right.
I'm pleased to introduce Jeff Peters with Williams and Company, all the way from Lamar's, Iowa today in this great weather. Williams and Company has been doing the city audit since 1999 and assisting us in achieving the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. So they've been a great help to the city, and more than just making sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's. And Jeff's here to do a little review, so thanks.
Thanks, Jack. I think I owe the Public Works and the Police Department an apology. It seems every year when I come over here, it does this.
I was gonna say, it's that time of year for a good snowstorm and Jeff to come.
Last year, my partner Graham came over, and I understand the weather was perfect. So there's a trend here. But at least we did it in one meeting and not, I think it was 4 or 5 was the record the last time. So anyway, with that, I am glad to be here. And I'm glad I decided to spend the night and not try to get home, because it is not very nice out there right now. We'll spend a couple minutes going through the financial statements. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those. If it's something that I can't answer tonight, I'll get back to you. So Jack has my contact information as well. The report is put together in the same format that it has been since 1999, and it's called a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It includes really 4 sections, individual sections. The first, at the very beginning, is called the introductory section. It includes a transmittal letter, the organizational chart, a copy of the last certificate of achievement that Jack mentioned. The second section, which begins on page 9, with our audit opinion, is what's known as the financial section. This is really the piece of the financial statement or comprehensive annual report that you pay us to audit and put our opinion on. The third section, tabbed as the statistical section, gives 10-year trend information on a lot of stuff. There's a ton of numbers in there, but if you really want to get a feel for where we were 10 years ago compared to where we are today from a financial, any kind of a financial standpoint, it talks about tax levies, it talks about assessed valuations, it talks about number of employees, it talks about a lot of trend information. So it's there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of numbers. but it is really good trend information to give you an idea where you were 10 years ago compared to today. And then the last section is on compliance, and we'll spend a couple minutes on that in a little bit. If you turn to page 9, you'll see the independent auditor's report. The report is what's called an unmodified opinion. That wording has changed. It used to be known as unqualified, then I had to explain why unqualified was good. This is an unmodified opinion, meaning we feel the numbers are fairly stated in all material respects. The middle of page 9, it talks about we have audited the city. Included in here are the financial statements for Waverly Health Center and Waverly Light and Power, which are considered component units of the city. Those financial statements have been audited by someone else, and as it relates to this audit, we are relying on what they did in those auditing those two different entities. This audit is done in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those rules, the audit standards are the rules that we're required to follow as auditors. It's done in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. There is a third level called OMB's single audit, Office of Management and Budget. That's compliance with federal money when your federal dollars that you spent exceeded $500,000. I can tell you I was here on site this year for the audit. I spent a significant amount of time making sure that you hadn't spent $500,000 because there is a lot of additional compliance requirements, and really what that means is it costs you more money for us to be here to give you the same report. Those rules are changing beginning next year, and what used to be a cap of, or a number of $500,000 is being raised to $750,000. So the odds for the city of Waverly on a regular basis being required to undergo a single audit probably has gone down a lot, unless you get a big street project or, heaven forbid, another flood or something like that, where you pick up a bunch of money. The good thing is it's an unmodified opinion, meaning we feel these numbers are fairly stated. And so I'd like to do is just spend a little bit of time. The next few pages, page 12 through 22 or 23, are what's called management's discussion and analysis. This gives Jack and the staff an opportunity in narrative form to compare this year to 2013. And it's a pretty good read. It kind of gives you an idea. This is what the numbers look like this year compared to the prior years, and it also gives you an opportunity, or gives them an opportunity to kind of explain those numbers a little bit. Beginning on page 24 are actually the financial statements. Page 24, 25, and 26 are what we call government-wide financial statements. Here we take the entire activity of the city and put it into two columns. One called governmental activities, which is everything except your utilities. And then we have a column for the business type activities, which is the water and sewer primarily. You can see total assets, governmental activities, $66.6 million, $16 million of business type activities. The equity, or we take that asset, subtract the liabilities. In the governmental funds, it's $49 million, and it's roughly $13 million in the business type activities. This really throws everything together in two sets of numbers, and it's a good place if you wanted to compare the city of Waverly to my hometown, the city of Lamar's or someplace. You can kind of see what do you own and what do you owe compared to other communities. You can't make management decisions from these numbers. Here we combine local option sales tax with the general fund, with road use tax. And so when we get back into the fund level statements, that's where you can actually make I think, assist you in making some management decisions. Page 25 and 26, again, government-wide, where we've combined everything together, but this is the statement of activities. And I like this statement because it starts on the left-hand side with what did it cost us to provide the service. So, for instance, and again, I apologize every time I do this to the police department because public safety is at the very top, and I always talk about that.
if you look, it costs $2.3 million to provide the public safety function, which is primarily the police and fire departments. From that, we subtract revenues that are generated directly from that as either charges for services or operating grants, leaving a net cost of $2.2 million. So what this is telling us is that governmental activities, we spent $11 million. We collected roughly $3 million from either grants or specific charges for services, leaving a net cost to provide all the services for the government outside of the utilities, $7.7 million. That $7.7 million cost is then paid for with primarily property taxes, but it's property taxes, local option sales tax, hotel, motel, those general revenues at the bottom of page 26. Again, good overview, here's what it cost, but you can't really tell, was it general fund money, was it local option sales tax money? But again, I like the schedule because it's pretty concise. This is what it cost us to provide those services. Beginning on page 27, this is the balance sheet for what we call the major funds. You identify basically by size the big funds or those that are most important, and we list those individually in the front of the report. The second to last column on page 28, other governmental funds. Every fund of the city is presented separately someplace in the report. So those smaller items are presented toward the back of the financial section in what are called combining schedules and then carried forward to here. Page 27 and 28 show the assets and liabilities by fund. And really, you want to know on page 30 and 31, how'd we do? If you look, general fund, this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Third line from the bottom, the general fund showed an increase in fund balance of $536,000, leaving a general fund balance of $2,210,000 at June 30, 2014. That's the equivalent of 127 days of expenses. So if on June 30 you stopped getting money in the general fund, your fund balance of $2.2 million would last 127 days, about a 33% carryover reserve. If you think about your primary revenue stream in the governmental funds, particularly the general fund, it's property taxes. Of your total revenues of $4.9 million, a little over $3 million is property tax. Or tax, local option sales tax could be in there as well, but primarily your tax revenue. If you think about when those monies come, your property tax check comes October 15th. That means to get you to that first big revenue check in your general fund, you need somewhere between 90 and 100 days of fund balance. You're at 127. You have a very good, solid, strong general fund balance. It's not excessive. In my opinion, it's on the strong side of good. Let's put it that way. And I know you have some big projects that you have coming up or some things you're thinking about. I think the comforting thing to know is you do have some reserves there. If it's something that you wanted to do, you've got a very strong general fund. I have had conversation with communities that I do work for when that, instead of being 127 days, might be 27 days or less. You are in a very enviable position, and you have to be very pleased with that. The other major funds, tax increment financing, employee benefit, and debt service, these are all special property tax levies, and so they're required to be accounted for separately. I don't think there's anything in any of those that really jumped out at me. On page 33, 34, and 35, and we can go right to 34, are the business type activities, the water, sewer, and solid waste fund. If you look about 2/3 of the way down the page, or third line from the bottom, you'll see a line called change in net assets. And the water system shows a decrease in net assets or a loss of $52,000. The sewer system shows a loss of $80,000. Two things really make up that number. One is that these are what we call full accrual financial statements. They have depreciation on your infrastructure, so your system assets are being depreciated. In those two funds, depreciation totals about $830,000. So if you add that depreciation number back, you're showing a strong profit there. The other thing is that this year is the last year. I think this was the year you finished up on that automated meter reading project. And those individual meters were significantly below your capitalization policy. So they were expensed in here just as an operating expense. And I think that totaled about a little over $400,000, about $209,000 for each of the water and sewer system. So if you take those two things out, your water and sewer systems are both doing very well as well. So the nice part about coming to a meeting like this is, to be honest with you, it's a little bit boring when you don't have a lot of, it's always good to talk about good news, not things that are not doing well. And you guys are doing very well. I've said it every year. It amazes me when I come over here, and one of the things, as I draft this financial statement, there are probably 30 or 40 capital project funds that are always going on over here. I kind of swear at that while I'm trying to draft all of those individual columns, but it's really nice to see all of the activity that's over here. And you have to be very pleased with being able to do that and still maintain a very strong financial condition for the city. The very last part of this is the compliance. We are required to, and a significant amount of the time that we spend in the audit process is to test compliance related to the laws and regulations, making sure you're expending the money not only in accordance with budget, but that you're doing it in accordance with Iowa code. And if you were under single audit, the federal requirements. You'll find in the very back of the report on page 118, our opinion on internal control and compliance related to that. In both cases, we found no instances of material non-compliance. We found, and we have one finding in here related to internal controls. It's actually on page 116. And I've talked about this before. The Auditing Standards Board sets the rules that we have to operate under. And one of the things they tell us is, as an auditor, if we come in and we identify journal entries, things that need to be fixed before the financial statements can be materially correct, I have to tell you you have a weakness in internal control. That's what that's saying. What that means is, and it's kind of surprising, but what that means is Jack and his staff aren't perfect. We are going to find things. We do about 100 of these audits. There's about 2 a year that don't get that finding. Those are the ones that really got lucky that year, not extra special good. So you guys are in good shape. I even hate having to write that comment, but it is a requirement that I have to follow. Just something to be aware of. The only other unusual thing in your schedule of findings this year is under the business transactions. There was some monuments purchased by an employee because of his business in another entity, or he owns an entity there, and it's listed on page 117. Not a big deal. However, it exceeded $2,500 without competitive bid. So I have to tell you that there was a potential issue with that. It happens regularly, but it's just something you need to be made aware of. Throughout the report, like I said, every number in the city is presented someplace individually in here. So if you have a question on local option sales tax, you can find that. If you have a question on one of your capital project funds, you can see that in the report. This was the first year in probably 5 or 6 or more that I was actually out here during field work. I've had a manager that has been here in the past, last few years. It really did go pretty well. I think we started back several years ago, and the group has learned a lot. And the process has gone very, very well. And through the years, we've really appreciated the relationship that we've had with the city as well. That's very quick. Any questions?
Thank you,
that I
Jeff. We'll
could
take a few
shot at?
questions. I keep moving, but we'll take a few questions.
You had, mentioned, I know, like Waverly and Power and the Health Center do their own audits with, different groups. Is there any advantage to all three doing it under the same, or does that not really matter?
Well, if we did them all, that'd be great. No.
Well, obviously for you it would be, but.
No, there really is not. The operations are totally separate. There are some transactions between each of the entities, but no. There'd be no efficiencies had, because they really are totally separate. So, yeah, it's a good question, but there really wouldn't be.
We thank you for good news. We like
Pleasure.
good news on finances. Thank you. Regular business item number 2 is resolved to award our Public Service Center's building package project to Peters Construction Company, our low bidder for the project. City Administrator, any comments?
We have Christopher Orth from Design Alliance in tonight to talk a little bit about the bidding process and where the project came in. He and Mike can also talk about kind of the timing and the package.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to them.
Well, I want to start by introducing Christopher, and I get to steal some of his thunder here. We had, on December 16th, we took bids for the Public Services Center and had 10 very competitive bids. And if I can get the presenter here to work and maybe tab, I don't know if you can troubleshoot this for me. Well, it's, oh, power button. See if that works.
He's the engineer.
It's a different wage scale than an operator.
Not an electrical engineer.
I guess what I'm going to start out with, and I'll turn it over to Chris, or Christopher here, is that we had 10 very competitive bids. And going into this, when we held the public hearing, we had cost estimates that we were thinking we're going to put us, several $100,000 over our budget. This process began over 2 years ago. 16 months ago, Christopher presented to the council different phasing options and had some cost opinions put together at that time. 16 months later, at this point of taking bids, yes, we are a few percent over that estimate from 16 months ago. But our bids came in 10% under the architect's estimate. And if you were to include their estimate in this, if they were in effect the 11th bidder, we would have had 8 bids lower than the architect's estimate. I think the reason for this is we spent a lot of time and effort into planning and strategizing when is the most optimum time to bid the project and how can we make it as attractive and appealing to the contractors as possible. How can we do that? And one of the things that staff recommended and the council undertook and came on board with is that we did all the site work ahead of time this past summer or this past fall. So we have a very clean, attractive site for the contractor to come in and begin immediately. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christopher.
Good evening. Thank you. I want to echo a little bit about 10 bidders. That's almost unheard of in our industry. We had another project bid the Thursday after this project in Dallas County, and it was about a $3.5 million project. We had 7 bidders on that, which we thought was fantastic as well. So I think what you're seeing is a strong bidding market out there right now, and I think 10 bidders really reflects that fact. We had over 60 different companies that took either hard copy plans and specs or electronic copies of the plans and specs, and we distributed to 6 or 7 different plan rooms. So we really cast a wide net. That was very intentional. Mike asked us to make lots of phone calls, and we contacted lots of prospective bidders to generate interest in this project, and I think what we're seeing is a result of that effort. I think that the bidding was very good. We had 0.6% between the number 1 and number 2 bidder. Under $22,000 difference on a $3.3 million project is pretty incredible. Between number 1 and number 10, there was only about 18% difference. So you can see that the bids were tight. I think that's a reflection that we had a good set of documents and a good bidding environment. In a little bit of a comment about the initial estimate that we did was a cost per square foot estimate. We did not do a detailed cost estimate back in September of 2013. We took big chunks of the building and said, we think this will be about this cost per square foot. We think this area will be about this cost per square foot. So it was not, we didn't count every brick, we didn't count every door. It was really a wide sort of look at the project. Since that time, the building grew by about 1%. So that might explain a little bit of that. As we refined the design, there were areas where we needed to grow a little bit. The salt storage structure grew by about 17%, and that was just through that design process. We determined it needed to be larger than what we originally thought when we drew a box on the site that was a certain size. We did more investigation, and we determined that it needed to be larger. The other thing is that we initially looked at starting the construction in our initial estimate in July of 2014, and we're actually looking to start the construction sometime late this month by approving this, awarding this contract and approving the contracts in 2 weeks. So there's a little bit of a lag there in the timing. We did start the site preparation package, but that's not bidding the whole of the project last summer and getting the project started at that time. Whether or not that would have resulted in better bids, I guess I'm not 100% convinced that that would be the case, but it's one of those things where 6 months could potentially explain some of that inflated cost as well. So,
At the public hearing, we had looked at, if it did come in over budget, that there was a couple of options for us to lower the cost. One was to maybe not do the salt storage building. Another one was an overhead crane in the equipment bay. We have phenomenal bids, and even the alternates came in lower than the architect's estimate. It is our recommendation that the council award the base bid plus alternates 1 and 2 to Peters Construction of Waterloo, Iowa.
Let's discuss it after a motion. Formal motion would be in order.
I'll move Resolution 1503, awarding contract for the Public Services Center for Operations and Disaster Response Building Package Project to Peters Construction of Waterloo, Iowa for $3,511,596.00.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, council discussion.
Can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of not adding the alternates?
The downside is that we feel it would be substantially more to add them at a later date. For instance, the salt sand storage structure, yes, we have one. It's at our existing facility, but we're going to be moving across town. At some point, we would ultimately need to build one. To do that as a standalone project, we're going to incur significantly higher costs. Same principle with the overhead crane. What we also need to talk about is our financing package. We are issuing and funding this project primarily with water and sewer revenue bonds. When we put this package together, we looked at what are the interest costs going to be? What is our annual payment going to be? And what we have seen is that just like with our water bonds, we were going into it thinking an interest cost of over 3%. The true interest cost was only 2.1%. So we were in effect able to borrow additional dollars without increasing our annual payment. And that's in effect what's going to happen with our sewer bonds as well. And those need to be let in the next 2 months? Next 2 months is that process will work its way through council if you choose to move forward tonight.
Which is also why we split the water and sewer bonds, some before the bids came in and then waited on the sewer bonds until after we knew where the project would be for bid amounts.
Is the purpose of the overhead bridge crane be for service work, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So to me, it's really required. That's kind of the point of the building. So, yeah, I would think that'd be, I mean, personally, I think that's a must.
More discussion? Before roll call vote, I'd like to ask any public input on this project on this vote, before we do roll call.
I guess my only thought question on that would be that salt storage building and maybe moving that to phase two, how much of an impact that would be. I mean, I understand putting it as a standalone project would be more expensive, but we do have a phase two building that's going to be coming with this. Would that be something that could be coupled in with that and save money at that point?
It could be, but in the meantime, you're going to have operational distress, having to have that at a site across town.
And I would say not only would you have that, but you would also have the potential for 5 years or whatever time frame of inflation that could impact the cost of that as well. So there would be an opportunity cost of waiting on that structure as well.
Other questions? Valerie?
Gade,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes?
Kangas,
Yes.
Neuendorf,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Resolution 15-03 is unanimously approved. Thank you, both. Regular business item number 3 is to set February 2nd, 2015 as the public hearing date to review our dry run project contract and costs. City Administrator, any comments?
Again, this setting a public hearing, like you said, Mayor, we're working right now on trying to refine those costs to understand where the project will be now that design is complete and property acquisition is complete. So I think Mike is working with the engineer group to get a better handle on that for this public hearing
Okay.
and for the financing associated with it.
Formal motion?
I'll move to set the public hearing date to review plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Dry Run Creek Improvements Project for February 2nd, 2015, at 7 PM in the council chambers.
Second, please.
Second?
Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote.
Waldstein,
Yes?
McKenzie,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Neuendorf,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
The public hearing is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 4 is resolve to do the required asbestos testing on the acquired properties that are part of the dry run project. City Administrator, any comments?
You'll notice in this document, we talk a little bit about the timeline for testing the homes. And so they'll move forward with the testing of the 8 that we already own, and we'll schedule the testing of the 9th as that works out this fall.
Formal motion.
I'll move Resolution 1504, approving asbestos testing and abatement services with Cardno ATC of Waterloo, Iowa, for the Dry Run Creek Improvements Project.
Second.
For $6,900.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay. And it's been-
$6,900.
It has been seconded. Council discussion.
There'll be a follow-up to this once we know the extent of abatement that needs to be done and that type of thing.
I believe that'll be a separate contract for the abatement.
No, it will not.
Oh, okay.
It's a time and materials, and we have to have the abatement done by March 6th. So this would not come back before the council.
I just have a question. Do we not take bids on stuff like this, or why? Or is this something we've used these for the other ones, or just curious? Kind of curious.
Well, one, it's not huge dollars, and what we're doing right now is this is a professional service agreement, and they will subcontract out the abatement.
Okay.
We're not talking huge dollars. We're not talking like $40,000 or $50,000. If we are, you'll definitely know about that. But usually it's typically less than a couple $1,000s per house. I'd be surprised if it was more than that. We will certainly keep you informed as to what's encountered, but we're really not anticipating any significant measures. A lot of time it's some roof flashing or some glazing around windows, those types of things, or maybe some flooring.
Do you want to talk a little bit about why we partnered with Cardinal for this?
Cardinal, yeah, they were one of the primary service providers on the FEMA buyout properties, and we have a good working relationship with their staff. You may not recognize the name. They've undergone some name changes and through merger and acquisition, but I've worked with their staff for a number of years.
Makes sense.
What were they called before? Never mind.
I knew you were going to ask that.
I was going to ask that too. I'm trying to think.
And it escapes me at this point.
Not that important.
Other questions? Public input on this item before we vote? Valerie?
Steindorf,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
President
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Resolution 15-04 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 5 is to set February 2nd, 2015 as our public hearing date to review the 2nd Avenue Northwest Sewer and Street Improvements Project that's along St. Paul's Church. City Administrator, anything new on this that we should know about?
This is the compilation of the work that we've been discussing for a while. If council recall, we entered into a development agreement with St. Paul's when they started doing their project, knowing that this is a project where we do need to upsize and improve the storm sewer before we do a road project on 2nd Avenue. And Mike can go over the particulars on the project and timing.
That's pretty much it. We're just saying the public hearing. So what's really crucial about this is we have a narrow construction window when St. Paul School's in summer recess to get this work done. So we're pushing really hard on the design and getting that done, and it would be bid on February 5.
Thank you. Formal motion?
Move approval or move setting the public hearing date to review plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for 2nd Street Northwest Area Storm Sewer and Street Improvement Project for February 2nd, 2015 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers.
Is there a second?
Second?
Council discussion beyond what we've already talked? Public input? Roll call vote, please.
President
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Steindorf,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
The public hearing is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 6 is to set February 2nd, 2015 as the public hearing date to review a proposed $117,000 cost for the fencing, parking lot, drinking fountains, and amenities for our proposed new dog park. City Administrator, any comments?
Not on this particularly, but maybe Mike can discuss briefly. I know there's a question on, we're setting a lot of public hearings for the 2nd. And just talk briefly about our construction timeline and window here and why we're setting them on the 2nd with looking to do some awards on the 16th and such.
Well,
General timeline.
little clarification on the dog park. All we're saying the public hearing for at this point is really doing the fencing project. State law says if projects are in excess of $50,000, then you must go through the formal public hearing and letting process. Because our cost estimate on the fencing is around $52,000, we're going through the formal process of holding a public hearing. Otherwise, this is a project that is probably best done by contracting out separate components of the work, because we do have the fencing, we've got a parking lot, maybe there'll be some shelters, and these are to try to do them under one contract just doesn't work well because the work is pretty evenly split, and who really wants to be the general contractor on this type of work?
Drinking fountains too in there, I believe.
Yep, well, what we're going to do is, we're going to have our water department run the water service in for the drinking fountains. We're going to do that just before the fencing is done, so those lines are run and in place. And then a contractor like Crystal Heating and Plumbing or of that type can then finish off and install the drinking fountains.
So that would be the 52,000 plus the 6,000 for the drinking fountains?
I think that, yeah, but for this project that we're doing, it's just the fencing. And so this.
This public hearing is just the fencing
just the
contract.
fencing,
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And we think
Step
that
one.
in doing that, we'll probably get 4 to 6 competitive bids on just the fencing. And then, like with the parking lot is going to be in a location that's right next to the Babcock Woods Trail Extension. So one of the things that we want to do is find out who the grading contractor is going to be for that project, and we'll know that on January 21. Again, this is a small enough piece of work that it may be worthwhile to look at basically negotiating with that contractor to see if they'd be interested in doing this work and what kind of price they would quote us. As far as, I think Councilmember Kangas had a question about projects. You know, we got 5 projects that we're setting public hearings for. And what we do, and as Jeff indicated earlier, Jeff Peters, we have lots of projects kind of in the pipeline. And winter, this time of year, we do a lot of design work, and we package projects. So we like to establish lettings that are monthly. So on the same day of the month, we will hold 4 or 5 lettings. And so in February, we have 5 lettings identified. On March 5th, we have 3 lettings identified. And then on April 9th, there's 2 identified at this point. So we step them through as groups of projects, going through setting the hearing, holding the hearing, having the bid letting, awarding the contracts, and then approving the contract documents. So, Tim, in response, you know, we have 10-plus projects out there, and we step them through as groups. As long as I got the podium, I think this is good information for you and for the audience and the public. So we have 10, 12 different projects that we're going to be undertaking this year. We then identify which ones really affect maybe school operations. And so we identify those to be in that very narrow summer construction window when school's in recess, whether it's the college or the high school or elementary schools. And then we take the rest of the projects and we then say, spread them out and say, should these be a spring project or a fall project? So we stage out the projects over a 7 to 8 month time period.
Thank you. Formal motion?
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to have a strong presentation. Formal motion.
I move we set the public hearing date to review the Waverly Dog Park fencing project plan, specifications, form of contract, and established cost for February 2nd, 2015 at 7 p.m. in the Ivan Ike Ackerman Council Chambers.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion further?
I'm just curious about the fencing. When we get the bids for that, do we, and maybe I missed, maybe it's already in here, so I apologize if it is, but do we determine already what kind of fence we want, or is that part of the bidding process?
Well, this would be a good opportunity for me to, I guess, go into that. I've been working with TAB on this, and for a dog park, I think standard is a 6-foot high fence, because some dogs can jump a 4-foot fence. So
Chain link.
chain link fence, right? So your standard fencing heights are 3 feet, 3.5, 4, and then 6 feet. So this would be a 6-foot chain link fence. It's galvanized. It's not PVC coated or plastic coated, okay? That would probably add another $25,000 to the cost of the project. It's something that we looked at because it just is nicer and has more appeal, but
The plastic coated.
the plastic coated. But given our budget and the desire to do some of these other things, we're presenting a galvanized chain link fence. If you want to go to the extra cost and consider the PVC, now's the time to let me know. But we think it's going to probably go from $50,000 up to $75,000 in cost. There is over 2,600 lineal feet of fence in this project. We've got a large and a small dog area. And so the smaller dog section's down here and the larger's here. I'm kind of going into the public hearing process, but if you want to change anything or provide input, this would be a good time to start doing that. And then we have some large gates. We have 12-foot gates into each area so that we can get large mowing equipment in there. And then coming off the parking lot, there's a special entry gate. It's a double gate system, so that you go into almost like a vestibule. So it limits the opportunity for dogs to make a break for it.
Freedom.
I hear.
It
Okay.
may be helpful just to maybe explain, I've had a couple questions. This was basically a community project that went and got the funds, that type of thing. There's some question on why the city is taking care of the bidding process, the construction process, that type of thing for basically what was a private effort.
I think Tab can relay that, but the city of Waverly was awarded the funding, and the project, I believe, has to be routed through the city.
Again, I think it's just good to clarify that with the public. It's not that question it, it's just for clarification.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing is that we've looked at this as a community a couple times since I've been here to do a dog park as a project. And we had some funding already saved up for a dog park project. So it's always been from the city park side of things.
And it is going on city property.
And it's going on city property.
Public input before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Reznacek,
Yes.
Nindorf.
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
The public hearing for the dog park will be February 2nd, unanimously approved. Regular business item number 7 is resolved to accept the infrastructure improvements for Stonehaven's 22-lot Lot 4 subdivision. City Administrator, any comments? Obviously, a good news.
Mike? I won't even try.
He does have the podium.
Give him also cookies.
Okay, so the developer, BNKD Inc., has completed the public infrastructure for Stonehaven Phase 3, which is opening up 22 new building sites. Most all the work was completed in reasonable conformance with the city specifications. There were a couple items that were noted that will be taken care of in the spring, and I've identified those in the agenda memorandum. It's just a couple of minor things that the developer will take care of first thing in the spring. Given the timing of this, it's not practical to try to do some of the punch list items at this point, like a couple expansion joints that were supposed to be sealed got missed, and there's a cracked concrete panel that needs to be replaced. So those are the things that are noted. There's one item that is maybe take note of that's going to require some longer-term monitoring, and that was with the box culvert that was put in. We did notice some joint separation that caught our attention, and we've gone out there and taken measurements and want to monitor the condition for a couple of years to see if that joint separation is stable or whether it's maybe continuing to open up again. So at this point, I don't think it's something to be overly concerned about, but it's something that we did identify in our walkthrough and want to make note of at this point.
Thank you. Motion would be in order?
So
Go ahead.
just kind of clarify here before.
Before we motion? Okay, go ahead.
Motion is, there are a couple things there that even though we're accepting it, they're still going to go back and take care of, and then the maintenance bond covers.
Correct. Motion, please.
Move resolution 1505, accepting the public improvements for Stonehaven Plat 4, Phase 3.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion further.
Good work mixing your Romans with your numbers.
With that comment, we'll do public input before we vote. Roll call vote, please.
Paulstein?
Yes.
Gade?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Reznичek?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Nindorf?
Yes.
Resolution 15-05, unanimously approved. Regular business item number 8 is resolved to form an 8-member community energy advisory team as required by our energy audit. City Administrator.
Yes, this is the, I guess, the official sanctioning of our energy management team. You'll recall that we're part of a pilot program with the State of Iowa Economic Development Authority to do energy audits and look at our facilities and our operations to find ways to control and, where possible, cut back utility consumption. And as part of that, we're required, or the council is requested to pass a resolution forming this team. It's made up of some energy officials, Kurt Atkins from Light and Power and Greg Thies from Mid-American, and then Ann Duncan, who's sustainability coordinator at Wartburg and a new member of the Waverly community. And then Sarah from the library, since that's one of our facilities. Brad, since he manages our facilities. Jack, since he pays the bills. Brian out at WPC, and then Dan as our council liaison. And I'm also on there kind of ex officio. So we meet monthly. We look at benchmarking data. We look at energy audits. We look at schematics and what other folks are doing and try to find ways to trend and then control energy consumption.
In a busy world, we applaud you.
And you guys
Motion, please.
You guys will come up with some, supposed to come up with some little projects.
A capital, at least one capital project for the city as part of the program and the budget. The program's about 18 months right now. They're looking for some additional funding to take it out to 2 years. But yeah, so it might be changing fluorescent light fixtures, of putting in LEDs. It might be weather stripping or something like that. So
Reactor.
hopeful modular nuclear. No,
New
don't come to City Hall for
Christmas
this
lights
meeting.
on the bridge.
Producing
Is
the
there a
300 light
motion?
bulbs in this room, maybe?
Motion, please.
I'll move resolution 1506 for the creation of the Community Energy Advisor Team for the Community Energy Management Program.
Second, please.
Second.
Council discussion.
So just it is, to be part of this pilot, it is required to have a team of this, an advisory team of this nature.
Correct. That's correct, yep. So we had passed a resolution a month ago, kind of adopting or saying, yes, we'll participate, and then I was reminded that we needed this one too, so.
Yeah, we've actually met as a group once, and,
We meet Wednesday again.
yeah, coming up again for a second one.
Do they prescribe what that group has to do? I don't recall.
Somewhat, like many governmental programs, the program begins and then they write the rules for it. So that's kind of in process right now.
We gotta pass it before you can see what's in it, basically.
But
To quote some, yes.
Yeah, I think there will be some of that develop as you go, but in our first discussion, I think it was refreshing as we kind of ticked off some of the projects we've already done as a city, to see our representatives say, wow, you know. Again, I think we're on the leading edge of a lot of this already, so I don't know that we'll have the big bang results that we might see in other communities, but I think there are plenty of opportunities out there to continue some of the things we've already done.
And an important effort on energy. Other council discussion? Public input before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Resolution 15-06 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 9 is resolved to approve our swimming pools rebidding contract. City Administrator, any comments?
I'll turn this one over to Tab.
Thank you. This is to approve the contract with Woodruff Construction. They were the low bidder. They're very enthusiastic, and when we get going on it, they may be starting in February. I don't know if after today they will be, but they want to do that. Part of this action is a change order to subtract the slide allowance out and add in the overhead lights. That was a priority, and we are out of standard in terms of lighting. So we wanted to do that. We had a little bit of wiggle room, especially if we took the slide allowance out. Right now, the slides are working. They're leaking a little bit in the edges, but we can budget that in operations in a couple of years if we need to.
Okay.
So they will still be functional, the slide will still be functional?
They both are functioning, yes. We still wax them twice a year.
Any quick questions before we motion? Formal motion?
I move approval of Resolution 1507, approving contract, bond, and insurance for the outdoor pool renovation project for Woodruff Construction be approved.
Second, please.
Could we please add to that resolution?
It's a
Let's do
second
second.
one.
Can we do second?
Oh, okay, I
Two
didn't see
actions.
that, sorry.
Second?
The motion second, and now, I'm sorry, Tab,
I'm good, thank you.
you're good to go. Council discussion. Public input before we vote. Roll call vote, please.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Resolution 15-07 is unanimously approved. Regular business item number 10 is a change order for a swimming pool. I think we can go right to a motion and discussion.
I move resolution 1508 approving change order number 1 for outdoor pool project to deduct the 40,000 allowance for the slide maintenance and to add the alternate for overhead lighting in the amount of 88,000.
Second? It's been motion second. Council discussion. Public input. Roll call vote.
Gade,
Yes.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Waldstein,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Resolution 15-08 unanimously approved. Regular business item number 11 is to vacate and convey 3rd Avenue Northwest between 8th and 12th Street to Wartburg College for the public. This is a cleanup issue, but a street long vacated to Wartburg College. It's in the heart of the campus, long gone. But it somehow remains in our city's name, and we need to clean it up. City Administrator, any further comments? Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to make, the explanation is that when we talked about this initially, there's a piece of Third Avenue between 7th and 8th that has not been vacated and that we were going to do separately. And when we removed it from the resolution, I believe we removed the entire Third Avenue instead of just removing the stretch between 7th and 8th. So what we intended to do is to keep the 8th to 12th in the previous time and not vacate between 7th and 8th. And it didn't get done that way. And they're going to bond next week or something, and they really need this cleaned up for their title people, so.
We'll hurry the vote.
Okay.
Motion, please.
Move approval of resolution 1509, vacation and conveyance of 3rd Avenue between 12th Street and the east line of 8th Street to Wartburg.
Second.
Motion second, council discussion, public input, roll call vote, please.
Kangas,
Yes.
Gade,
Yes.
Bezincheck,
Yes.
Nindorf,
Yes.
Kanzi,
Yes.
Waldstein.
Yes.
Well, Resolution 15-09 is unanimously approved. I would like at this time to appoint Richard Purcell as our representative to the Bremer County E911 Service Board. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Second?
Council discussion? All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed with no. Congratulations, Police Chief, on your appointment. We move to our reports. We have the W monthly report, which has been very healthy, and we all kind of watch the numbers. And any comments from any council people on the W's monthly revenue report? Officially received. Golf Commission minutes, they hiked up the, Mr. Gade?
I guess the one thing I'll mention is that the Golf Commission did honor Dr. Bill Withers of Warburg with their 2014 Volunteer of the Year Award. So he was the one who helped the club and the golf course come together, create a common mission statement, and it's been a very positive thing for the golf course and country club to work through that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Little nominal fee increase for next year, I think?
Yep, just not much.
Just a widow?
Just a little,
Okay.
$10 here, $10 there, so.
Okay. Any other comments? Officially received. Economic Development Commission minutes. This came from Mr. Worker. Officially received. Staff comments.
Just a few comments. We heard from Shelley Wolf that the ballots are in for the special election on the 13th. So folks interested in doing absentee can go see her. Our winter storm warning is supposed to go until about 3 a.m. Our crews will be out about 2 a.m. And start clearing the snow. They're going to wait for a little bit more to fall. I know traffic is fairly light right now, so maybe go to bed early because we'll be your wake-up call about 2:30 when we drive by. Other than that, I'd just really like to say thank you to Jack and thank you to the directors for their work in putting together this year's audit. Again, a good audit. I think a good financial practices in place with this council, with past councils, and with the staff, and I think that's reflected in Jeff's comments. And we'll take some of his suggestions also to heart as we put together our budget for our discussion later this month. So thank you to everybody here for that good work. And I think Mike would like to say something.
There looks like a staff comment.
I think he's using his whole month's allowance tonight.
Right.
Talk for
The engineer.
March.
Mike Jerry.
Well, tonight we set the public hearing for the Dry Run Creek project, and the plan document is pushing 400 pages. So it is very substantial. This is a big project, probably one of the biggest that the city has done. I know at one point there was some question as to whether this would even be accepted by FEMA. The answer to that is yes. In mid-December, we got the conditional letter of map revision, and it's an interesting document because this is how it's titled. As you can see here, it's titled comment document. But what it does tell you is that if we build it the way we've said we've built it, it's going to lower the flood elevations by about 4 feet along the Dry Run Creek. And that this then lays out, upon completion of the improvements, the steps that we have to take to complete the letter of map revision. So that's good news.
Yes.
It's validated the hydraulic modeling.
Could you also touch on, I know, I'm assuming everyone did, I got one. Everyone that lives in the area got a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, also kind of going through the project and a lot of verbiage and stuff that I'm assuming that's just standard procedure that we all have to be notified of it, and
Right.
it's sent out. It came from the actual Army Corps of Engineers and not from the city of Waverly, but.
Correct. Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I think we need a thank you to Bill and to Mike and everyone who saw this thing through to move Waverly forward, and the unanimous city council, unanimous city council throughout. And, so, acclaims going. Other staff comments? Let's start on this side. Derek, we'll hold you to last. Any council comments on my left?
I just have, on Fifth Street Northwest, kind of by Quickstar, and before you get to Second, there's kind of a dip in that new road. Is that something that we've been watching, or?
Yeah, it's right around a manhole. It's been settling a little more, and probably in the spring we'll look at cutting it out and patching it. Yeah, figuring out what's going on there.
Okay. Just noticed it seems to be getting worse, maybe.
I've noticed it for like a year and a
No,
half.
I know I have too.
Speed control.
When it gets colder, my Jeep shocks make a lot of noise, and I hear it more.
Edith?
I would just also, I'm going to say the same thing, but I think it's important to say from a city council member perspective, a thank you to staff and my fellow city council members, but especially to staff for the excellent audit report.
Yes. Let the minutes so indicate. Valerie? Niendorf?
Good.
Good? Mr. Kagan?
Phil kind of touched on it, but just kind of a reminder, we have an empty seat up here, and next Tuesday, Ward 1, election to fill that seat, and we have 3 community members that have stepped forward to seek to fill that seat. So please show up, those of you in Ward 1, to take care of and help fill that seat.
I'm sure the newspaper will lead the charge a little bit more in the last few days. Thank you.
The voting is here.
Comments on my right? Dan first.
Again, just complimenting staff and the folks. Phil was gracious enough to send the council kind of a year-end summary from each of the department heads. And it's a lengthy read, but very valuable information. And I don't know if that's the type of document we can put out on the website, but it again highlights the positive things that are going on in the community, as well as the busyness that we're all able to manage through, and the quality of life we're trying to provide for the community. So once it's up on the website, I would encourage people to go out and take a gander of it, and if they have any questions, let us know.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick?
I'm good.
Go. Before we get to Derek, could you come to the mic, Chris? We're asking him to do all kinds of things, and people say, "Who's that?" Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris DeBeck. I'm the new general assignment reporter for Waverly newspapers. I just moved here literally yesterday from Vinton. I'm originally from Rochester, New York. I've been living in Iowa about 2 years, and just excited to be a part of Waverly. This seems like a very nice community, and as sports editor of the newspapers, I've gotten to see Waverly Shell Rock play a couple times, and it's just excited to be here.
Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
We look
Thank you very
forward
much.
to the working
Just-
relationship.
I do have one comment for the city council. I guess we're looking to take new photos at the next council meeting, like new headshots. So if there's a particular shirt, dress, anything you'd like to wear that you want to be seen in the newspaper, I recommend you wear that. Alrighty?
You are going to remind us.
Speaking with authority.
Fair warning.
Derek.
Thank you very much.
Derek Solheim.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be a part of the council tonight. I would echo the same thing that a lot of you have said to the city staff in particular. I think oftentimes the work that you do, you may not get the pat on the back, and I think there's lots of citizens that greatly appreciate all the work that you do, as well as the time that the council members serve our community. And the last thing I would say is I'm having a shoveling party in 15 minutes at my house, so you're all welcome.
With that, I just cut out the mayor's comments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourned.
Second.
All in favor signify with yes.
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 No, we are adjourned officially.